Welcome to Check the Energy podcast and the Vitality series, which is hosted on YouTube. These are conversations with guest conversations I want to cultivate and be a part of, all about the topic of vitality, but from a new paradigm perspective and an energetic context. And so every guest that I bring on here has specific expertise that I feel really lends honestly like a very fascinating framework to learn about vitality from. We can be very kind of one-dimensional when we think of vitality and health and healing, and yet there's so many pieces to it and so many different ways to perceive it, to experience it, to expand our consciousness around it. And so it's really my goal and my intent when I have these conversations to bring on those that inspire me. And Kelly is most certainly one of those people. And so I'm happy to introduce Kelly Prill, who is here, drprill.com. I always love to plug, where you can find them, because really we're all such rich resources for each other. So grab a cup of tea, maybe even a notepad and a pen, and just get cozy. We're going to go wherever the conversation takes us. These are all just unscripted and whatever we feel like talking about in relation to her expertise, which I will share in just a moment, and the topic of vitality. So Kelly, I'll give you a bit of the relational background, like the context of how I know Kelly. But first, the topic. So, we're going to be exploring energy, nature, and neurology, and how those three really foundational concepts intersect with vitality, how they create vitality, how they activate it, how they help you experience your world in a really vital way. So that being said, I want to share a bit about how I know Kelly, and then I'll turn it over to her to introduce herself and share a bit more about her background, her training, her story, whatever it is she feels called to share with you. But I first met Kelly, when was it? I think it was 2019, 2000.
Yeah, almost 4 years. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So she was first came into my world as a referral. Actually, there were, I think, maybe 3 or 4 of people that she knew that were clients of mine, and they were saying, please go work with Vanessa. And Kelly kind of dropped in a little bit here and there, would get like something, maybe like a smaller offering that I had. And every time I just had this, and I do this, I have to admit, I do this with, there's certain clients where I just know I'm supposed to work with them. And so I kind of chased her a little bit, because it's an intuitive instinct for me. And I was like, I need to work with you, Kelly. Like I need you to be a client. And so we worked together for about a year, right? Year and a half, something like that. So it was a
Yeah.
real pleasure to, to be in that mentoring position. I love it anyway, but I find Kelly and honestly everybody I work with, they're just so interesting to me. They just have the incredible background. And so the journey that I got to support her on was both personal and professional. And what has grown from that is it's a wonder to watch. It's just like, wow. So I actually am feeling reunion type of vibes right now for myself. And even though Kelly and I have talked a bit here and there over the time that we stopped working together, and I've just sort of seen her blossoming from afar, now I get to actually sit down and be like, what is going on? How have you expanded these concepts and applied them and experienced them? And so I'm really glad you're here, Kelly. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So tell us, tell us more about your background and how the energy nature neurology framework kind of came to pass, how that plays out.
Yeah, I think it all starts kind of when we kind of started connecting. I had let's see, I've been in practice as a naturopath for 12 years now. But at the time I was right hitting that 8, 9 year mark. And I had moved from Portland, the big city, to this tiny town, Silverton, with this intention of just living life differently and feeling like something was missing, but um, having trouble finding what that was. And so then I was searching, and let's see, I moved here in 2019, and I think I reached out at the end of that year, like, something's up, I'm looking for something. I'm looking for something that I'm not familiar with. I don't know where to go. And so your name came up several times, and I reached out, I think, for like a mini reading, like
Mhm.
a written reading or something. And it just sparked something inside of me of like, this is the path. I don't know where I'm going, but this is the part that's missing. Because, I see in the medical world, like 10 years is a pretty common burnout point where
Mm.
it's like, okay, I've been doing the same thing. What am I going to do to spice this up, to make this exciting? How can I enrich what I'm doing for the people that I'm working with? And for me, that ended up being a deep dive into my own personal journey.
Yeah.
And I think, I moved here and I opened my practice in this tiny town on the first day of shutdown
Oh,
during the
wow.
pandemic.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Wow.
it was this, like, I had shut down Portland. There was nothing there. I opened this new beautiful office, and then we were in shutdown, and it was this giant message to take a step back and realign. And so we did. And so then it was like, what's missing? What's up? I have so much going for me. Life is great. And really just seeing the story I'd created for myself, and that a new story was trying to blossom. And so I think I'm super grateful for you and all the work that we did, because I feel like what you did for me was showed me all the doors and
Mm,
how to open them.
mm,
And then I had to walk through them and learn from that. But in that journey, I found that, I found myself, I found self love, I found my purpose, my
mm,
truth. And it's been a journey in figuring that out. So here I
mhm,
am, 4 years later,
mm,
and have just launched my new website with all of my new things, and all under the premise of energy, nature, neurology, and how this weaves together health and vitality, and how we can heal in a
mhm,
very different paradigm and model
mhm,
than
mhm,
what's been given before.
mhm.
Yeah.
So like let's untangle this.
Yeah.
Energy, nature, and neurology. Like what are each of those pieces about for you?
Oh, this has been quite the journey. I mean, for me, energy was the piece that was missing in my life. That was the part that I wasn't giving voice to, even though it was so very there. And so to me, energy is the basis of all of it. And
Mm,
so um, energy is where it all starts. It's how, we shape our frequency, our vibration. It's how we resonate with things. It's how we know, okay, I'm supposed to work with you. This feels right. Like, just learning how our energy and how to read our energy. I mean, this is not a topic talked about in the medical world,
right.
really, at all.
Yeah.
And for me, it's the basis of where it all starts. If our
Mhm,
energy's off, then everything is off. And when we can
mhm,
hone in on the energy, we find alignment and the answers to the other parts that we.
mhm,
I mean, I think
mhm,
for me, it's where the true vitality comes. It's
mhm, mhm.
energy of who we
Absolutely.
are, and our essence, our inner self, our truth, whatever you want to call it. But
Right.
so energy for me is all of that. And then nature is really this. I mean, we are nature. We are of this earth, and we so separate from that. And so really learning to use nature as a mirror for our health, and
Mm,
see synchronicities and the wisdom in nature all around us, but also, like, that's us as well. And so when we can use that mirror to guide us, then we actually have more direction and guidance than we think, when we
mm,
learn how to open into how we are nature, and how we're so interconnected with each other and
mhm,
the rest of the world. So, um, And really, it's one of the greatest healing, forces that exists. So if you want to shift your energy, go in nature. We all, we know this. It's in the research now, but we've known this since the beginning of time. Nature heals. So,
Mhm.
and that's what naturopathic medicine's all about, right? Nature heals. So,
Ideally, ideally,
right.
yeah.
Right. So, but for me, it was like really connecting that I am nature, you are nature, we
Mm.
are one and the same, and to heal, a lot of focus on healing the planet, but really, when we listen to the wisdom keepers and the indigenous voices, and really just our own voice, like we have to heal ourselves as nature. That's actually how we heal the world, and so
Mhm.
So that's how nature plays out for me. And then the neurology, I have my postdoctorate in something called clinical neuroscience or functional neurology. And
Mm.
that is where I just essentially learned how the brain works and all the pieces and how it's so interconnected, and, how we become dominant in one side or the other, or, how that all works. Kind of
Mm.
like rehab PT for the brain is what I do, but also the neuroscience, which I think is really trending and popular and so needed right now, is this awareness of how our nervous system really is controlling our health in many aspects. So when we heal the nervous system, we heal a lot of the other stuff. And the science side of me can map that out for people, and the physiology, and then the energetic piece is like, yes, this is how I navigate the world, this is consciousness, this is who we are. So
Mm.
pulling the brain, pulling neurology into all of that, and when
Mm.
we weave it all together and we find alignment in the energy, nature, and neurology, we have vitality.
We do.
Yeah.
We do. I'm gonna cut this clip, and I want you to use it on every platform that you can think of, because that was just so well, I mean, it really is just so well said, and I think that as we approach the topic of vitality, like I said, I think it's very, people are still a bit mired in an old dimensional or old paradigm approach that, oh, it's like what you eat and exercise, and it's beyond that, and we're really diving into the space of, the trendiness that I see as well with the nervous system regulation. But like, I'm so grateful for it. It blows my mind. I learn something new every single time I'm exposed to that information. But then when you connect it to nature and energy at the same time, it's like you are really encompassing a truly holistic approach to well-being and to really creating vitality. And it's reminding me, and I know this is part of your work now too, and completely new for me to be talking with you about it, because it didn't happen during the time that we were in, deeper conversation. But that is the being the, and I can't say it because my tongue doesn't want to move in that way, but the facility. So you'll have to do it for me. Yeah, yeah. How do you say it? Say it.
Psilocybin.
Psilocybin. Right. Yes. Having a mind of its own. Psilocybin facilitator. And I do remember there was a time where I had witnessed such a change. I mean, I mean, that's straight from nature, right? It's working on an energetic level. It's working on the nature level of really kind of like reconfiguring the internal landscape of how you respond to reality, right? And I
Yeah.
remember noticing a palpable difference in your energy and in your nervous system after you had experienced that, I think one of the first times, and I was blown away. Like, intuitively, I don't feel like it's necessarily the right path for me, but I have a heart condition, and so there's just other reasons why I take care of my health in the way that I do. But I was astounded at the very tangible difference that I saw take place within your system through this type of natural medicine. And so I think it's really cool that you have decided to explore that as and facilitate that. So can you share a bit more about either your process or the process of being, Like, what is it? What exactly happens when you take part in something like that?
Yeah. So I'll start at the beginning because I was recently divorced and just looking for community and a way to heal. And my one of my mentors came in and said, I do these drum journeys. And so it was the first time that I had experienced a microdose of psilocybin. And we're talking like a teeny tiny amount, like almost homeopathic.
Mm,
And we came out of that drum journey and I was like, I feel calm. Like, really, like,
mm,
calm. Like, is this what calm I've never felt calm in my
mm,
life,
mm,
which is interesting because I wouldn't have called myself anxious or,
mm,
I wouldn't have labeled myself as that either, but my whole system just settled in and was
mm,
calm, and I was like, "Wow, what just happened?"
mm,
So, for me, it was like, "Wow, there's medicine here."
mm,
And so it piqued my curiosity, and yeah, I always say the mushrooms choose who they want to work with,
mm,
and they chose me in this.
mm,
And so I played with this for a little while, and learning to take trauma and calming my nervous system and live at just a calmer state was so new and wild and different for me. And so through that I found, well, again, it kind of found me, was this psilocybin facilitation training program. And so I got a very clear message, like, you to do this. And I was like, I don't know. I don't need any more. Like, we're good. And it was like, no, you're gonna do this. And so I jumped into the 6 month program, kind of completely a clean slate, not just like, I'm here, I'm supposed to learn something. And so through that, and then I went and had my own giant experience with psilocybin down in Mexico. And it was life changing, truly life
mm,
changing. And for me, I think, what psilocybin does is it shakes up the brain. It's like if it was a snow globe, it kind of shakes it all up. It shakes up all those stories, those limiting beliefs, the thoughts. It shakes it up and they land a little differently.
mm,
So from there, the medicine really brings up what needs to be dealt with. It
mm,
also opens doors that the trauma and nervous system can really block and protect you from
mm,
entering.
mm,
And the mushrooms kind of create the safe container for you to go there. And
mm,
so when you have the safe space in the facilitation to really go deep, you make some incredible changes and shifts. And so then coming out, I say psilocybin is half the medicine and the other half is integration. So
mhm,
we can shake up the brain and we can change how it's all working.
mhm,
We change where it all sits, but then we have to do something with it. We have to
mhm,
create those neural pathways, the neuroplasticity, like, oh, my perspective is totally different.
mm,
How do I go live it and do that?
mm, mm,
And I think I see that too. And just to go back to what we were talking about in this neuroscience trend, asking why is so important, and um, context is so
mhm,
important.
mhm,
Knowing why things work the way they work creates amazing understanding and perspective on the direction of how to heal. But it's the embodiment, it's the putting into practice, it's the integration that actually creates the change, which leads back to actual how the neuroscience works. So,
mm,
mushrooms are just another way in
mhm,
to open doors that are hard to open in a
mhm,
very safe and supported space. So for
mhm,
me, um, with mental health on, skyrocketing right now, we need a massively different way.
mm,
And for me, the mushrooms were like, this is a way in. This is a
mhm.
way, as long as we put it in a container that allows the integration and healing to go with it. I mean, they do beautiful work all on their own.
Right.
But in the guidance of that integration, I think is really where some of the biggest changes happen.
Mhm, and that's what you would do as a facilitator, is you help support the integration process.
I do all of it. So we
Yeah,
kind of get you prepped and we get you ready and figure out all the details and the setting and what, intention. I mean, we
mm,
really create a ceremony around it because
yeah,
mushrooms are ceremonial. They're interconnected mycelium, right? So, and then we get ready and we do a mega dose together.
mm,
There, I'm not doctor, I'm not anything. I'm just facilitator. I'm just holding a container where the mushroom and you do the work together.
Right.
And then when you come out of that, we then work together for several weeks to integrate,
Mm.
to create meaning from it. We don't want to make meaning
Mhm.
making too quickly because the mind is so strong and powerful. But really, when we let it settle, then we kind of go and make meaning of it. And not just meaning, but what does my life look like? These are life changing moments for a lot of people. I mean, this is kind of a saying that's truly said by many people often is, wow, that was like 10 years of therapy,
Yeah.
8 hours.
Yeah.
But what do we do with it? Because you're going to come out totally different. You are not the same as you were going in, which is beautiful. That's what we want. That's why we go in. But the integration of what that looks like to life
Right.
be smoother than not.
Right, right, right. Because you're still going back into the same environment, the same relationship dynamics,
Yeah.
the same perhaps, your thought processes might be different, but all the typical triggers still exist, right? They
Right.
don't necessarily go away. And so it really is that moment. I've heard people refer to those as like the test, to see if we can really sustain the change. And
Mhm.
I don't know if I love that analogy necessarily, but when I start to think of just the nature of mushrooms themselves, like
Mhm.
the what was the movie by Paul Stamets? What was that?
Oh,
Fantastic
fantastic.
Fungi. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you start to learn about how similar the network of the mycelium is to the brain. Like right? I mean,
Yes.
I'm seeing that
Yeah.
correct. So it's kind of very much a mirror, like you were saying, we are nature. And to
Mhm.
take that medicine, it actually strips away any of the masks that hold us back from experiencing vitality. Because I think about that, I mean, certainly there are toxins in the environment, certainly there are toxins in the food, and there are different ways that, we introduce poisons into the system, right? And that's a kind of a whole other topic to go down, and we can certainly go there, but I'm thinking of just the emotional turmoil and the mental looping that happens for people that creates this very thick shield between them and the world, and it kind of hides the authentic self. And I feel like the collective right now energetically is really at this turning point where they're saying, yeah, no more. Like I can't mask anymore. It's too painful, too emotionally painful. It is, we have a certain amount of time here in this form. I need to be the truest version of myself. And when you start to put on that framework of I am nature, I mean, nature's not out there like trying to front on social media. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're just nature's just the tree. Like I even thought that this morning when I went down and I was feeling kind of jittery, and I honestly, I think it's the energy of where I'm currently located in the world, and because it's not super compatible with me. And so I find myself in the morning, I have to recalibrate like nearly every morning, and I just go straight to the tree and I stick my back against the tree and I just stand there as still as possible. And I'm quite literally, it's my charging station. I know my whole system it just feels like it's in this, um, you know, not an infinity loop per se, but just like a real feedback loop with the tree behind me. And
Right.
it reminds me like they're just nature is just nature.
Mhm.
And if we can allow ourselves to be the expression of nature that we are, and let these mushrooms reorganize our brain in a very healthy and connected way, talk about a shift in energetic frequency. I mean,
Yeah.
uh, it's like I kind of want to step back from, the peak moment or the instant change or that kind of quantum leaping that people get so sort of antsy-pantsy about doing, and just because it really is a process. But there can be the experience of a leap in what you're talking about, but then it's both, right? It's both and. You have the leap, and then you go back into the world, into your life, and step by step integrate the changes that have reformulated or recalibrated within your own system. So I just find it really fascinating.
I mean, it's really beautiful. It's beautiful work. And it's not for everybody. And it's not the only way in. But
Yeah,
for some, and I mean, I work in trauma. So when there's trauma, there's a thick wall keeping you, protecting you. I mean, your body's wise. It's trying to do, it's trying, I say we're walking heads, right? So disconnected from our body. And
yeah,
the head will lie to you and protect you forever to keep you safe. And
yeah,
the body is down here holding the truth. And, just by nature of my background and how, people come to me for the physical symptom, but really the physical is the body screaming, like, please come down here. Like,
yeah,
please, that shield, like, if we get rid of the shield, can we work together? Can we create alignment between the mind and the body? I'm
yeah,
trying to give you a message to reconnect you to you. And
yeah,
so the mushrooms are a massive way to move the shield.
yeah.
Mhm.
So for those those people out there that say, this isn't quite the route for me, what do you suggest in terms of like um, releasing the shield, um, healing the trauma? Uh, I will say for myself, because I also, similar, I come from a complex trauma background, and I had no idea. Like I had thought I did a lot of healing. Like I'm, the little proverbial pat on the back, like, good job, Vanessa, you've done so much healing. And then I started educating myself on how trauma shows up in the body, how it shows up in our language, how it shows up in our energy. And I was like, oh my goodness, I am walking around in a trauma state and I didn't even realize it. I'm walking around in a dysregulated state also. Like things like just walking around and leaving I learned this recently actually, that if you walk around and you leave doors, cupboard doors open,
Mhm.
that it's a sign of dysregulation. And I do that all the time. And I was like, oh my God. So do you do that also? So, you have this incredible background and understanding of the brain, I want to say in a very scientific, but also very non-trendy kind of way. Like you really have a logistical understanding of the brain, of dysregulation, of trauma. Where else can we start with using the tools and the landscape of energy and nature to support the healing of our neurology?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is where it's unique to everybody, and this guidance, and this is like a lot what you do too, is like you just have to find your way in. If that means sitting up against a tree every day and grounding, you're regulating your nervous system. We
Yeah,
co-regulate with other people who are
yeah,
calm. We do it through nature. We do it through therapy. There's a million ways, but I think what I'm seeing now, especially with this neuroscience trend, is, like I said earlier, like awareness is so important
yeah,
to understand that you have trauma in the first place because trauma has been shock trauma.
right.
And while shock trauma has its own nature and healing, collectively, we're all walking around with what I say is normalized trauma.
Yes.
And so we think we're doing great and we're not doing so great, right? Like, but we have no idea because not only is it normalized within our own system, it's normalized with everybody around us. And so I think just starting to see
Mhm.
where that is affecting you is step one. If you can see where the rift is, then you have direction. Then you say, okay, well, this is what I see. How can I change this?
Mhm.
Changing language is something you were talking, the words we use highly trauma based. They're
Mhm.
we do not speak nicely, especially to ourselves. And so literally just changing the language in your thoughts. The Gottmans have the famous research study. It takes 5 positive thoughts to overcome one negative thought.
Mm.
We are survivally based. We
Mhm.
are supposed to survive. That's why that is like that. But try going a day, and every time you have a negative thought, come up with 5 positives.
Mhm.
Caveat to this, because some people get stuck in this, you don't have to come up with 5 positives about the negative thought. You can do any 5 positives. But
Mhm.
that is how neuroplasticity works. You're building the road less traveled. It needs more energy, it needs more fuel, it needs more attention. And then it's a road that you go down without even thinking about it. But when we walk around in a trauma state, we're walking in these urgency and
Mhm.
dysregulated, anxious states. And so that's just the baseline normal, and we think it's all good. So then anything goes wrong, and now we're off the cliff, and we're like, well, how did we get there? Like,
Right.
so I think just understanding collective trauma, trauma in yourself, where does that come from? I mean, I have yet to meet anyone who doesn't have some sort of trauma. We live in a trauma culture.
Right.
So it's around. And so just awareness is first. But
Mhm.
what I want to say here is awareness is where it starts, and you have to have the context, especially if there's trauma. Trauma needs context to feel safe. So finding safety, I think, is number one. What makes you feel safe? What needs to go in the environment? What needs to be brought into you? What needs to be unlearned? This is how we begin to untangle the
Mhm.
trauma,
Mhm.
changing the language. But really, I think where the money is what we're talking about is getting in the body, because the
Mhm.
body holds the truth. The
Yeah.
body will never ever lie to you, but your head is keeping you out of your body, trying to protect you. And so the more we can learn embodiment, connection, but nature can do this. The tree is doing this. It's saying you're safe, you're okay, we're
Mhm.
okay. So
Mhm.
someone that you love can co-regulate with this. There's just so many ways in. I think you can't get it wrong as long as you're trying to find a way to feel safe within. And
Yeah.
once you feel safe within, now you can do the work. Now you can
Mhm.
go touch those spots that are a little sticky. Now
Mm.
you can go in and say, what's over here? I'd like to learn a little bit more. But it
Mhm.
really comes back to that vitality. I was thinking about this word this week because I knew we were going to have this talk, and like, what does vitality mean? Right. And to me, it's like aliveness seems obvious, but really not just aliveness, but aliveness in its full expression, aliveness in its strength. And
Mhm.
so we tend to, in words, we project like, oh, you go in the good, happy, joy corner. Vitality is over here on this side. And to me, vitality is full expression of it all. If
Yeah.
you're in grief, fully express your grief. That's
Yeah.
vitality. That's the
Yeah.
body looking for vitality and moving through vitality. And so really that full, strong expression
Yeah.
of all that you are and
Yeah.
unlearning all of the things is vitality.
Yeah. I mean, and also like I love the way that you put that. And to me, it creates this image of really letting life move through you. Really letting yourself feel the feelings. And you need that safety, that container of safety within yourself, that you need to provide that for yourself so you can feel safe to just feel your feelings. And I think about how important this is and how, ideally it would be something that we pick up as children, right? That's modeled by our parents to, you're going to have a lot of feelings as a human being, and it is okay to feel your feelings. Your feelings will not kill you, but when you hold them in, they really, I mean, this wouldn't be my son is always saying like, use kid words, mom, because I sometimes don't. But I was going to say it coagulates, right? Like the emotions, they just start to, when you don't let them move through your system, they just start to coagulate and like become these, what we call blocks, but just these frequencies of density, because they're trying to get our attention, right? Our body is saying, hey, like, we've got something going on over here that you might want to look at,
Right.
and soon.
Mhm.
because the longer we put that off, the more it accumulates. And I just think this is so um it's so basic, and yet culturally, collectively, we're not getting that message of safety. We're not necessarily passing that down. We need to intentionally be creating that for ourselves, like reparenting ourselves, and
Mhm.
also choosing to intentionally parent our children in this way. And I think, like, it just makes me wonder, where did the story go awry? Like, where in the narrative did it get hijacked that it's all of a sudden not okay to have feelings on this very emotional planet, right? Like, we came here to experience the intensity of and the range of emotion. And what can we do to craft a new story, to really make a new script and say, actually, we're not going to play it that way. Actually, we're going to let it be safe. We're going to create safety, and we're going to let ourselves feel. And it's such a journey, to be able to allow life to move through us, to feel vital, to feel real, to be authentic. It seems like, I know these words are like thrown around a lot in the transformational space, but there really is the paradox of, there's such a gravity to it, like there's such a, I don't want to say urgency, but there really is like a very important timeliness for all of us to be approaching this way of being differently, to really embody it. And yet there's also the importance of bringing in some lightness to the experience of feeling emotions. Like, yes, it's okay to have anger, and yes, it's okay to have grief, and yes, we can find different ways to let those emotions and that energy move through your system so it doesn't, you know, coagulate.
Right.
So um yeah, so I'm curious, because I know you really believe, and I do too, that it is how we heal the world, is through our own dedication and commitment to our self-healing. That
Mhm.
is how we change the narrative, by us living a new story. And it's also, goes right in line with, I always say, you are the paradigm shift, right? So we can really bring it home and think about how the model in which we live, that we're creating for ourselves, and how that creates that ripple effect out there. So do you have any thoughts or words on self-healing and the role that that could play in uh changing the game collectively?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. It is the way we heal the world, and there's a collective narrative here that's trying to keep us from all of this, and that we're broken and we need fixed. That's not true. Like, we come in whole. Sure, pieces may fragment and we have to come put them together, but you're whole and we have everything you need to heal. There's nothing outside of you, but we're taught in conventional medicine that we have to go up and out to heal. And so I think just like breaking these myths about healing is number
Mm,
one. Like, I don't need anybody outside of myself. It's okay to get guidance, and you don't know what you don't know, but don't give away your power to someone that I'm broken and you have the thing that fixes me, and if you can't help me, this victim mentality a little bit comes into healing, whereas like you're only the victim if you don't take responsibility.
yeah.
And the other myth there is that taking radical responsibility for your health is the way, and yet there's a narrative that says it's selfish. And it's
Mm,
not selfish, right? Like, it's not
yeah.
selfish to take care of you. If you can't take care of you, you can't take care of anyone else. And that's like, forever. And intention, where's the intention coming from behind that? There is selfishness and there can be selfishness, but it's often from a disconnected place. So
Yeah.
the more you are connected, then all of that self-work is just emanating. I think I just wrote about this recently on my Instagram, of just
Mm,
like, you're like this bright light, and the more you can nourish the light, the more the light spreads, and the more the light spreads, the more it touches someone else's light, and then we're spreading via light versus getting caught in what's wrong, what needs, I think that's part of this neuroscience is awareness and context is important, but don't get caught in constantly finding what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You'll listen. When you can attune to yourself, what needs to come up will come up in its right timing.
Mm-hmm.
And it will release as it needs to, but we don't have to power push and this is urgency to heal and get all better. And it goes to this vitality like it's some end point, and it's like
Right.
there is an end point. It is the now. You are vital in every moment. What's the level of your vitality, I think. So yeah, self-love, self-healing, self-connection. I mean, that's however you need to get there. And if trauma
Yeah.
is preventing you from that, then trauma is where you start. But
Right.
sometimes it's not trauma, sometimes it's other things. But I think the other big piece here is um, part of the trauma mentality and the collective mentality is this lone wolf mentality.
Mm.
Like, I can do it myself. I'll do it myself. I literally don't have anyone to call on. I mean, I'm a solo mom. Like I live in the lone wolf often. Like, who's going to help me? I have nowhere to call. It's all on me. I have to figure this out myself. And so it's been a deep lesson for me in asking for help and
Mm.
being vulnerable. And I think that's part of the paradigm shift is we're going to heal in community.
Yeah.
And so when I offer things as you can come as an individual or you can come be part of the group, there's
Mm-hmm.
a massive trend to come by yourself because to do it in group requires a level of vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And so, which is fine. You are where you are, and that's fine. But I want to challenge that, like, when we witness other people's
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability,
Mm-hmm.
it changes us massively. So,
Yeah.
and so while the work is focused on you, it's that spreading of the light. To witness someone else's story is like, I'm not alone. It's
Yeah.
not the same story, but I'm not alone. I'm okay. We are all in this together. And then it really shifts into gratitude and giving.
Oh gosh. Okay. So I initially had these two other pieces I wanted to ask you and that were popping in. But I need to say briefly, because you don't know this, but just a few hours ago, I recorded a video about the lone wolf and how important it was to how 2024 is really calling us into community and into togetherness and to really actually also honor the role that the lone wolf has played as an archetype and energy in our lives, and that I all of the things that you're talking about, the being the witness, the deep listening, the holding space, the togetherness. So it was cool to hear you say all of that. I was like, and I have not put the video out because I just did it a couple of hours ago. So it's I just had to say at first that basically we're the same person in this moment. We're tapping into the same field here of where we're headed. So but it does pop in. The two things I wanted to ask you, and you can decide which one you'd like to start with, but I want to say them both now so I actually remember. One of them is, because you have a background in neurology and you understand the brain from that very, scientific perspective, and it's functional neurology, right? So there's a bit of a twist in terms of the application of it, right? The like in real time aspect of it. Um, uh, in how quickly can we change our brains is the question.
Instantly.
Instantly.
Yes. It's just
Okay,
how we do it.
it's just how we do it. Okay.
Ask the second question. I'll go into it.
Okay. Let me ask the other question. And this actually, they may tie in together and be the same story that you tell. So we'll see. The other question that I had was, um, what have you seen or what have you witnessed, whether it was in your own personal journey or in facilitating somebody else's, that really surprised you? Like you were just like, wow, in it surprised you. I don't want to put any more, descriptors around that, but um, I I felt called to ask you that question, and also in relation to the brain, because we've been talking a lot about the process, right? The embodiment, the integration, and sort of that step-by-step incorporating it into your life, in being that different version of yourself. And there is a process to that. And I'm also, on the other side of things, what have you witnessed? What have you seen? And how quickly can we change our brains?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, changing our brains is, um, in my office, people come to see me, and within one 30-minute visit, we've massively changed the brain. But it goes back to the same model as the psilocybin, where it's like you have to then practice it. It's like learning a language or playing guitar. It's just like anything. This is how neuroplasticity works. You can create change, but are you going to build the road that's going to keep
Mm,
you there? So it's back to integration. So, I've moved, just changing someone's eyes and how they move their eyes. We
mm,
change the brain.
wow.
And smelling a smell changes everything we're doing. The brain is evolving. It is not, it's moving all of the time. It's ever evolving. Every movement, every word, every way you move your body is activating some sort of the brain. I
Mm,
mean, the brain's job is to find patterns, right?
mm,
So at the
mm,
age of 2, you have more neurons in your brain than you'll ever have the rest of your life, which makes a lot of sense. If you think of a 2-year-old, they're in this constant like, it's too much. It's too
mm,
much taking on, and so of course they're having meltdowns, of course, but they're also
mm.
expressing in a way, right? Like sometimes we need to just harness our inner 2-year-old and let it out.
All right.
But at that point, the brain has all the neurons it's ever going to have, and the rest of your life you're pruning it, and the brain's job is to find the patterns. The more the pattern is aligned and working smoothly, then it puts its energy to something else.
Mm,
So this is where you have to build a new road. You're going to use a lot of fuel and energy to create that neuron, to create that branch to grow. But once it's there and you've practiced it and you're just doing it, now the brain has time for something else. It
mm,
has more energy and fuel to do that. Um, so yeah, so you could change the brain instantly. It's about practice, which is what
mm,
we're talking about. It's what embodiment is. It's what
mm.
breath work. Like we have so many modalities that are practice, but it's like the new year. Like, what's your intention, and can you stick with it? Like, it's
Yeah.
the integration. It's what road are you building? But I think what we're not talking about is the intention behind that, how to
Yeah.
do that, how to do it for yourself, but how to receive help from others. And that brings it back into that lone wolf piece of we're not meant to do this alone
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
all. But asking for help is really hard for someone with trauma, because
Mhm.
asking for help is where a lot of the damage came. Needing help is where a
Right.
lot of the damage came. And
Right.
so I think it's a place where we can grow.
Yeah.
And like
Absolutely.
we need to learn to receive. We don't know how to receive. We
Mhm.
worry about, I think people come for, financial, not enough, not enough health, not enough money, not enough energy, not enough. But really, like, it's all there. How do we create the path to open it up?
Mhm, mhm. And I can talk about the massive collective script that needs changing.
Yes.
And when you think of it, when you look straight at nature, where nature is always showing abundance. Like we live in a state. I used to get very triggered by when other people would say this. I'm like, have you seen what's going on in the world? This is not abundant. I'm like, no, there is an abundance of war. There is an abundance of peace. There is an abundance of lack. There is an abundance of plenty. Like we are seeing a lot abundance of whatever it is that we are focusing in on. And
Yes.
so it's just this ideology of kind of like the image of a cup that doesn't have a bottom to it. Like we're just emptying out all the time, and we're running out. We're not enough. There's not enough resources. There's not. It's like, I honestly, if I'm going to be personally frank, I find it very offensive that we are spoken to in this way. I think it's very disregarding of the human wisdom that we all inherently have, that we've bought into and consented to a mainstream narrative that is telling us that there is not enough and we are not enough. I mean, my Bay Area born and raised instinct activist, throw it all down, kind of internally goes, I don't think so. You can't do that. That's so rude and disrespectful. And that is not how we talk to each other. It is not how we treat each other. So as a personal aside, probably, related but unrelated to the topic altogether. But I think there is something to be said in the vitality piece, and also in the like knowing your own energy and really getting connected with nature and really starting to understand your neurology, that there's like a reclaiming of the voice, right? Like the reclaiming of, no, we're not living that way. And that to me is what the new paradigm is about, is that activation of really collectively and individually saying, here's how we're going to do it instead. So I had to go off on a tangent.
The 2-year-old stands up and screams. The 2-year-old screams, they're angry and they're gonna punch and they're gonna hit, but they're, you try to talk to your 2-year-old about it 2 hours later and they're like, what? Like, we're like, well, we gotta break this down and figure out how we got there. And they're like, no, I fully expressed, I did the thing. And I think in this culture with the negative bias, and we're just taught to not express. And so what we're learning to do is express, and that's the vitality.
Yeah.
It's the suppression. It's like you were talking about getting bound in the body, it's in the research. This isn't woo woo. Like the fascia holds the memory, water holds memory. And so literally the fascia in your body, all that connective tissue that runs from head to toe that keeps you together, is holding all of this. So as you learn to go in and embody and express it, you move it, which brings you smoothness and alignment and ease, flow and abundance, and all these, fancy words that we're trying to attain. But I think, expression, no more suppression. And it is negativity that is keeping us suppressed.
And
it all plays to the mind being disconnected from the body.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Let's see, something that surprised me in the psilocybin arena so much. It's really, I just have seen some of the most beautiful transformation happen so suddenly. But I think what was surprising to me is like really the power of the mushroom and how powerful, like nature has a voice and it wants to talk to us. And if that's your called way to heal, then nature has something to say. And it can go so deeply. But what I think I was surprised out in my own experience is how thick the shield was. Of all the work I've done, of all the training I've had, I know about the shield that keeps me from my body. I know my protective mechanisms, and I've done the work, and I think I've probably talked to you many times. I'm frustrated. I can't get through. Like I can't get through. I'm trying this. I'm trying this. I'm trying this. And part of that is the language, right? I can get through. I just haven't found the way. But for me, the mushrooms were like, let me just move this for you.
Right.
Completely. And then it's like, whoa. Wildly intense of what you have access to. And it's not, we get in this trauma mindset of like, oh, what am I going to see? But there's so much beauty there. We're so held. We're so connected. There's so much abundance and wisdom and beauty right here at our fingertips. And it is that negative bias and that trauma mindset that keeps us from seeing it. So, and I see that through everyone who goes through the medicine in one way or another, that we're deeply held.
What a different way to walk through life. To take that really felt cellular perspective and experience, and to then walk through your life knowing that you are held at all times, no matter what you're going through. Beautiful.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that feels like the perfect closure piece to our conversation, though I really honestly feel I could easily talk with you for about 3 more hours. because it feeds me. It feeds me on a deep level. So I really do appreciate you coming to this conversation today and everything that you shared. And I would love for you to kind of close this out with sharing where people can find you and if there's anything special that you're offering or that you want to highlight, please do.
Yeah, thank you. I'll start with just thanking you for this. This has been a lovely conversation, and grateful for all the work that you do and all the people that you're serving. And it's fascinating to watch and be a part of that. So, um, people can find me at drprill.com. All of my things are there. Over the next year, I'm building some online courses for people all over the world on how to be your own medicine. And so,
Mm,
really, that's part of my philosophy of bringing the medicine back to the people, that you
mm,
have what you need. You just need a little guidance and context. And
mm,
so, here's the guidance and context. And then you have a place to go with that. So, there'll be 4 of those courses on different topics. And then,
mhm,
also, in the next year, I'll be opening up Reawaken Your Magic, which is my 3-month psilocybin
mm,
facilitation program. And that can be mostly done virtually, except for the
mhm,
actual journey. People can come in for that piece, but as for the rest, we can do virtually. And then, yeah, I'm here in Silverton, Oregon. So if anyone's nearby, drive on down. I have all kinds of stuff I'm doing, from little visits to help reset the nervous system to a group gathering on wintering and receiving. Yeah, I always have random stuff kind of popping up. And then the other thing I offer to anyone who's just feeling lost is Remedy. And that's my intro visit and
mm,
consultation. And again, that can be done virtually or in person. And it's really just, I'm looking for a roadmap. How is it all connected?
mm,
Tell me how this emotion and this symptom and this
mm,
system, and it's all just a lot of pieces. And
mhm,
so what I do is create a map for people so that they
mm,
have that. And
mm,
then they can decide which roads they want to take and how to get where and find the back roads. And so you create your own map so that you understand yourself and your health in a much wider
mm, mm, mm. I want to do that. Can I sign up? Because, but I love the way that I love the title of that. And I thrive with my personal apothecary, but I love the framework that you put together and the roadmap. And I think that is because you're doing it so holistically, it really can create such an incredible foundation for people for their vitality. So good job, you. I'm very, like proud, however you want to say it. I don't know. It really is. It's an honor to be in the same circle as you. So thank you again for coming to the conversation. And thank you to everyone who is either listening to this on the Check the Energy podcast or watching it, the Vitality series on YouTube. As you know, my name is Vanessa Smith. You can find me at vasmith.com or Vanessa Smith Energy Guidance on YouTube or Your Energy Guide on Instagram. That is where I am currently at. But as always, just hop back to my website and you'll find the latest, greatest things there on the new paradigm and on energy and energy context of what's going on in the world today. So thanks again, Kelly, and we'll sign off here and talk to you all later. Bye.